What's up, guys? Code Doug here, and we're back with another episode of Poker Hands. And today we're going to be breaking down a very unique hand that I saw the other day on PokerGo's No Gamble, No Future. Now, you probably already recognized why this hand is weird from the thumbnail, but yes, in this hand, a player's card gets exposed because in this game type, someone had an exposed card token. It's a pretty unique game over there on PokerGo, and so it makes the entire hand pretty strange. On that note, let's go ahead and jump into the action. Our hand begins at 100-100 with a $200 ante, I believe, on the big blind. And this hand is actually pretty strange because the players are playing the stand-up game, but rather than play for money like civilized humans would do, these guys are playing to take off their shirt. That's right, whoever is standing at the end of the game has to play the rest of the show shirtless. I see nothing wrong here. The loser of this silly game ended up being Wolfgang. So if you want to check out shirtless Wolfgang, head on over to PokerGo now for an exclusive video library of content featuring games such as High Stakes Poker, Super High Roller Bowl, and Shirtless Dudes. I think I all know what we're signing up to watch for. High Stakes Poker. If you'd like to subscribe to PokerGo, I'll put a link in the description below. Okay, so back to the hand here. We have the stand-up game in full effect. We have some players limping in. It gets kind of weird in the stand-up game because you are incentivized to play tons of hands to get out of there. I don't know if it's as much like that when you have to take your shirt off. You should probably just knit it up and then show off the guns. But as luck would have it, these players are definitely trying to not have to take the shirt off. And the action, after a few limps, ends up on Luis Rizental on the button, otherwise known as Brazil God, making it $1.3 thousand to go. Prologue in the big blind here looks down at Queen Jack offsuit. These players are very, very deep with about $80,000 effective, and he does decide to call with the Queen Jack offsuit. This is a pretty large raise pre-flop, but there is an ante, so I think this hand is kind of close. This is a classic poker hand spot. I don't mind fold, I don't mind call, and I don't mind raise. He decides to go ahead and make the call. Now the action back over to the players that limped in before with their garbagey hands. And they're not going to take a flop here. It's not worth that much to take your shirt off. And we take a flop, heads up. The flop comes ace, queen, 5 rainbow. We have a gutter to the nuts for Brazil God. And we have middle pair for Prologue. Prologue checks here as he should with all of his hands. And we get an insta bet from Luis, where he says the bet and then picks the amount later of 1.7 thousand. About a half pot bet here. I like betting this hand. If you get a fold, of course, you're going to be the worst hand getting the equity to be removed. And then also, if your opponent calls, you draw to the nuts. Where this hand starts to get pretty interesting, though, once the action's back over to Prologue here is, of course, you want to check call with your Queen Jack. But once he calls, this is where this hand takes a turn.
I'll see you on the river.
Sounds
Actually,
good.
Reveal. Sure. Hold on a second. Reveal
Really?
the right one.
This one right here?
Please.
Okay.
Wait, before he's...
Yeah.
Oh, he did call. Okay.
Yeah, all right.
So this format has a wheel and you spin it, and Brazil God won a token and he's using that token to reveal a card. It's all very, very strange, but here's the cliff notes. Luis has a token that if he uses, he makes someone reveal 1 card, which is a pretty gigantic advantage. In this situation, he ends up seeing the Jack of Spades. This card's interesting because basically you know what the other card kind of is. It's an ace, king, queen, or 10. No other card really makes sense. He can't have, for example, Jack 5 of Spades because the 5 of Spades is out there. So it really narrows his opponent's range down very specifically when you see the Jack of Spades. I think there's an important note here, though, before we continue this hand, which is I feel like when you reveal an opponent's card early on in a hand, it makes your hand pretty weak. The reason is simple. Let's say, for example, that Brazil God had a set of 5s here. Why would you want to reveal a card? When you reveal one of your opponent's cards, they're more likely to fold later streets because there is an informational asymmetry where in position is more likely to be able to value bet effectively. So essentially, when you reveal a card, your opponent is just forced to fold more hands. In my mind, this makes it way more likely that he's bluffing the flop. But of course, he could also have a good hand and try and balance it out. It's just a little something to think about if you're ever playing in this stupid game format. Anyway, we take a turn, 1 card face up, the best hand's middle pair. I guess some shit's going to go down on the turn. The turn comes a 10 of hearts. Now, King Jack is the nuts, which is interesting because Prologue has shown that he has a Jack. In this situation, you're definitely going to want to be using some turn leads, with the reason being you have a bunch of nutted hands in your range. In fact, this 10 definitely helps out almost all of your hands. If you have ace jack, queen jack, or jack 10, you now have a pair and a gutter. If you have king jack, you have the nuts, and there's really nothing else you can have. So in this situation, I like a small lead with lots of your hands, which is what Prelog decides to go for. I think this is a really smart play. It reminds me a little bit of in stud poker, or you play Raz or stud high-low. Sometimes the board changes in a way where one player's hand definitely gets a lot stronger, and so they might take the betting initiative even though the other player bet the last street. Now, in this situation for Brazil got on the button with the gutter and the flush draw, I don't think I would want to raise many hands here. My opponent can certainly very easily have king jack. There's a lot of king jack out there, and he can't really be that weak. I mean, worst case scenario, he's got something like jack 10. So he's either got the nuts or a pretty strong hand. So I think it makes sense in position here with the equity you have to just call and play the river, which Luis decides to do, and let's take a river. The river comes a jack, making it 1 to a straight, which is a very, very, very interesting card. And at this point, both of these guys have to just be thankful they're sitting down. Neither one of them has to take their shirt off and be embarrassed in front of hundreds of thousands of people online. Public embarrassment is a good way to incentivize behavior, which is why I'm announcing if I don't win over $0 in my 100K challenge this month, I'm either going to shave my head or dye it platinum blonde, and I'm going to let you guys decide. We are currently stuck a bunch of money, and it's been a couple of weeks. So right now, as it stands, we're in a lot of trouble. And if you want to see how this plays out, you can tune into my streams at noon Central Time over on Club WPT Gold. And as a final reminder, I'm giving away $100,000 this month to anyone that signs up with code Doug. So I'll see you over there, and you know what to do. I hope you guys choose blonde. I've always thought I would look good as a blonde. Do we really need another bald guy in poker? The river comes the jack of diamonds, and my mind is exploding trying to figure out what to do when your opponent can see one of your cards. But I think the play here is to check all of your hands, because most of your hands are 2-pair, and you do have some straights. It's also obvious that your hands are 2-pair, and your opponent is never going to call you with worse than 2-pair. So for example, if Brazil God has ace 9 here and you bet, he's never going to call you because there are no hands with a jack on the flop that can call the flop bet and then not be at least 2-pair here. So I think when you have 2-pair, you don't really get any value from betting. So that means you should check all of those hands. And then with a king, you can also check to protect your range. Now, maybe it makes sense here to bomb it with some of your worst 2-pairs like jack 10 and a king. And so that way, maybe you get Brazil to fold a ace queen or queen jack or something like that. But I think generally speaking, if your opponent knows one of your cards, you should be doing a lot of checking on the river because your range is pretty capped and it's very specific what your holdings are. Prelog takes another approach here, bets half pot. I really don't like this. I don't see the goal. What are you trying to get called by? It's obvious you have at least 2-pair. I just don't get this one. This is a very strange bet to me. But this is where the hand gets super, super spicy.
I just hate money. Yeah.
I can tell.
Yeah, just
Okay.
throw it away.
Wow. Oh, Brazil God sees right through this.
Boom, instant $30,000 raise on the river. And wow, I mean, this hand is just nuts. So first off, when you raise in this situation, $30,000 is actually a bit too big because your opponent can have a king here at least fairly often. And when you make it 30,000, they really only have to call with a king. Also, your opponent should be kind of polarized here. I know he's not. So this is a very good read from Brazil that he actually just has middling 2-pair. But in this situation, when you risk 30,000, your opponent is probably just going to call with a king and fold otherwise. So this raise only really makes sense to me if you feel like your opponent, if they had a king, would do something different. And that does kind of make sense. If you have a king, it's somewhat likely that he would go ahead and just bet bigger on the river, or maybe he would bet bigger on the turn. Maybe there are some timing tells going on here. I actually don't know exactly what Luis saw to raise this river, but what I can say is he very astutely figured out that this is just 2-pair and not a straight. So he's going to put Prelog to the test here, but will he be able to sniff this one out?
I don't think he has a king, but I don't think I can call.
That is kind of fun.
Wow. Does lay it down.
Too big. That sucks. Nice hand.
Do you have a king?
Yep.
Bravo, Brazil God.
That was a cooler.
Oh,
I know.
Almost got there.
I've been a pro for many years, so I can leave you with this wonderful piece of sage wisdom. If your opponents can see your card and or cards, probably just let it go. All right, that's going to be it for me. I'll see you guys over there in the 100K challenge every day at noon Central Time. Tune in for more carnage. And again, I think I would look good as a blonde. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.
No, now I just put it in 8th gear, baby.
Brazil got up more than 30K.
Why? You care for a drink.
Here you go.